I almost didn't make this video. I sat down 3 times this week. And 3 times I got up and walked away. Because what I'm about to tell you, it's not easy to say out loud. Not because it's embarrassing exactly, but because saying it out loud means admitting that I got some things very, very wrong. And I spent a lot of years not admitting that. I'm 72 years old. I retired 4 years ago from 31 years of working, first as a school administrator, then as a department head, then as someone who just kept saying yes because I didn't know how to say anything else. I raised 3 children. I was married for 44 years to a man I loved deeply, though I didn't always show him that either. And I burned out. Quietly. Completely. More than once. Nobody called it burnout back then. In the 80s and 90s, they called it being tired. They called it being emotional. They called it needing a vacation. They handed you a pamphlet about stress management and sent you back to your desk. But I know now what it was. I know it in my body, in the way my hands used to shake on Sunday nights before the week started. I know it in the years I can't remember clearly because I was simply moving too fast to be present inside them. I know it in the face of my youngest daughter, who once drew a picture of our family for school, and drew me with my back turned. She was 6 years old. I still have that picture. So today I want to sit with you for a little while, not to lecture you, not to give you a 5-step program, not to sell you anything, but to tell you what I wish someone had sat me down and said when I was 34, running a household, climbing a career ladder, and losing myself piece by piece without even knowing it was happening. These are 5 rules I learned too late. I pray you learn them sooner. Rule 1: tired is not a badge. It never was. I used to wear my exhaustion like jewelry. How are you, Margaret? Someone would ask, and I'd say, oh, busy, busy, barely sleeping, you know how it is, and I would say it with this little laugh. This proud little laugh. As if surviving on 4 hours of sleep and 3 cups of coffee was proof that I was doing something important. I see younger mothers do this now and my heart aches. I see it in the comments on videos, in conversations at the grocery store, this quiet competition around who is the most depleted, as if the most exhausted woman in the room is somehow winning something. She isn't winning anything. I promise you that. What I know now, and what I could not see then, is that I was confusing suffering with value. I believed somewhere in my bones, I don't know where that belief came from, maybe from watching my own mother, maybe from a culture that never told women their rest was sacred. I believed that if I wasn't suffering a little, I wasn't trying hard enough. And so I stopped listening to my body entirely. My body would say slow down and I would say not yet. My body would say you are running empty and I would say just one more thing. And then another thing. And then 10 years passed. There is no nobility in running yourself into the ground. There just isn't. The work doesn't love you back. The to-do list doesn't attend your funeral and say, "She really gave everything." Your children will, though. And what I want for them, what I want for your children, is a mother they remember as present, as warm, as someone who occasionally laughed without looking over her shoulder at what still needed to be done. Rest is not a reward you earn after everything is finished. Everything is never finished. Rest is something you must choose on purpose, before you collapse into it. I learned this at 63, recovering from a health scare that my doctor told me was entirely stress-related. I wish I had learned it at 34. Rule 2. Asking for help is not weakness. Refusing it is. I did not ask for help. I did not know how. I want to be honest with you about something. I grew up watching women who held everything together with their bare hands and never complained, and I thought that was strength. I thought that was what a good woman looked like, self-sufficient, capable, never a burden. So when I needed help, I pretended I didn't. When I was drowning, I smiled and said I was fine. When my husband offered to take something off my plate, I said, "No, I'll do it. You've got enough." And then I went into the kitchen and cried into the dishes because I was so tired and so alone in my tiredness, and he was right there in the next room and I had just sent him away. I thought asking for help meant I wasn't enough. What I understand now is that it's actually the other way around. Refusing help, refusing it out of pride, out of fear, out of this idea that needing people is somehow shameful, that is where the real fragility lives. That is where women crack quietly in kitchens and no one knows until it's too late. You were never meant to do this alone. Motherhood was never meant to be solitary. For most of human history, women raised children in communities, surrounded by other women, sharing the weight. We have somehow convinced ourselves, or been convinced, that needing support is failure. It is not failure. It is wisdom. The strongest thing I ever did, and I did it too late, in my 50s, was finally look at the people around me who loved me and say, "I need help. I can't do all of this alone." And not one of them thought less of me. Not one. They had been waiting for years for me to say it. If someone offers you help today, please take it. Not someday. Today. Rule 3. Your children need your presence far more than your perfection. I kept an immaculate home. My children's school uniforms were always ironed. Birthday cakes were made from scratch. Every Christmas card went out before December 15th. And I was so deeply proud of all of it, this carefully maintained appearance of a family that had everything handled. But I was not always there, even when I was standing in the room. I would be cooking dinner and thinking about a meeting. I would be reading a bedtime story and mentally drafting an email. I would be sitting at a school play, physically in the third row, and completely somewhere else in my mind. My body showed up. I was less consistent about actually arriving. My middle child told me something a few years ago. She's in her 40s now, has her own children, and she said, very gently, the way kind people say hard things, she said, "Mom, you always made sure we had everything we needed. But sometimes I wished you'd just sat with me and not done anything. Just sat with me. Not fixed anything. Not organized anything. Not improved anything. Just sat." I had to go for a walk after she said that. I needed a little while outside before I could speak again. The perfectly folded laundry is not what they remember. The ironed collars are not what stays with a child into adulthood. What stays, what roots itself in them deeply and shapes who they become, is whether they felt that you were genuinely happy to be near them. Whether your eyes lit up when they walked into the room. Whether you could occasionally put everything down and just be with them, without the invisible list hovering over the table. Presence is the gift, not perfection. Presence. I was so focused on being a good mother in ways the world could see that I sometimes forgot to be a good mother in ways only my children could feel. Rule 4. You are allowed to have a self. You must. I disappeared for a while. Gradually, then completely. It wasn't dramatic. No one took anything from me. I gave it away, slowly, piece by piece, over many years. I gave away my hobbies first. No time for that now. Then my friendships narrowed. I'll call her next month. Then my opinions got quieter. It doesn't matter what I think. Then I stopped even knowing what I wanted to eat for dinner, because I had spent so many years ordering meals around what everyone else would eat that my own preferences had become a mystery to me. By my mid-40s I had become a very efficient function. A role. A mother, a wife, an employee. But the woman underneath all those roles had become very thin. Very quiet. Burnout is not just exhaustion of the body. It is exhaustion of the self. It is what happens when you pour so much out for so long that you no longer remember what filled you. When you can no longer identify what you love, what moves you, what makes you feel like you, that is when you know you have lost something serious. I started painting at 61. Badly. With no training and no talent at first, just brushes and color and this stubborn need to do something that was only mine. And sitting at that canvas, I would sometimes cry, not from sadness exactly, but from this sudden recognition that I had forgotten I was a person. Not just a mother. Not just a wife. A person with an interior life. You are allowed to have an interior life. You are allowed to have things that belong only to you. Not everything about you has to serve someone else. Not everything has to be useful. Some things are allowed to just be yours, your music, your journal, your walk in the morning, your chapter of a book, because you matter. Not because you're a good mother. Not because of what you produce. Because you are a human being and human beings require more than duty to stay alive inside. If you have lost yourself in the roles you carry, please hear me when I say, she is still there. She is waiting. And it is never too late to find her, but please, please, don't wait as long as I did. Rule 5. The guilt will not protect your children. Letting go of it will. This is the one I find hardest to say. I carried guilt the way some people carry handbags, always with me, always heavy, always within reach. Guilt about working. Guilt about not working enough. Guilt about the dinner I didn't cook and the event I missed and the conversation I was too tired to have and the mother I thought I should have been and wasn't. I thought the guilt was love. I thought feeling that bad about falling short proved how much I cared. But guilt is not love. I see that clearly now. Guilt is fear dressed up in maternal clothing. And what it does, quietly, steadily, over years, is eat you from the inside. It takes the moments that could have been joyful and covers them in shadow. It makes you sit at your child's birthday party feeling like a failure instead of feeling like a mother watching her child turn 7, which is a miracle, which is something to be grateful for. And the children feel it. Not the specific guilt, they don't know the details, but the heaviness of it. They feel the cloud that follows you. And they wonder, sometimes, if they are the cause of it. Children are very good at absorbing things we never intended for them to carry. The most loving thing I could have done for my children, the most genuinely protective thing, was to forgive myself sooner. To say, I am doing my best, and my best is enough for today, and tomorrow I will try again. Not to wallow. Not to punish myself in ways that made me less available, less warm, less able to love them well. You will make mistakes. You will miss things. You will lose your patience on a Thursday afternoon and say something too sharp, and you will look at your child's face and feel the floor fall out from under you. This will happen. It happens to every mother who has ever lived. What you do after is what matters. You apologize when you're wrong. You repair what you can. And then, and this is the part one want you to hear very clearly, you put the guilt down. You do not carry it into tomorrow. You do not use it to torture yourself for the next 6 years. You put it down because you need your hands free. Because your children need a mother whose hands are free. I am 72 years old. My children are grown. They are whole, imperfect, beautiful people, and I love them with everything I have. We are close now in ways I am deeply grateful for. But I know in the way that only hindsight allows you to know something completely, that some of those early years were harder for all of us than they needed to be. Because I was burning and I didn't ask for water. Because I thought that was what love looked like. It doesn't have to look like that. You can love your family deeply and also rest. You can be devoted to your children and also have something left for yourself. You can be a wonderful mother without disappearing inside the role. These are not luxuries. They are not rewards for women who've earned enough to deserve them. They are the conditions under which human beings, and mothers are human beings, survive and stay whole. I learned these things too late to change the chapters one would have written differently. But you are still writing yours. Write them well, sweetheart. Please. Rest is not weakness. It is wisdom you owe yourself.